Hello, we're back. It's only the Somewhere on Earth podcast, and it's Tuesday the 14th of May, 2024. Greetings from our studio here in London. And with us today, again, is Wairimu Gitahi as I live and breathe. My goodness, how are things this week, Wairimu? Still feeling pragmatic from last time?
Completely. In fact, I've got more thoughts on AI. I'm an AI girl now.
Whoa.
I've been thinking, Gareth, there's this whole talk, and many companies and organizations have been using AI for their recruitment process. And I keep on thinking, what about gut feeling? Because when you're interviewing someone, when you talk to them, when you connect with them, the tone of their voice, their facial expressions, there's something more that you learn that you can't learn from paper. So I'm torn in between, okay, let's use AI, but at what point in the recruitment process should we use it? Should we use it at the very beginning first, should we just use it for shortlisting? Is that good enough? Will we miss something still because we only have looked at data? Or should we still use AI for the shortlisting process and then have a final interview face-to-face, and that's where we determine, what our gut is telling us. So I've been thinking about, I don't know what you think, Gareth.
Oh, it's a really tricky one, isn't it? Because we all know that gut instinct thing. And maybe we like to think, well, it's a positive thing. Just as human beings, there'll just be some little resonance there, something we pick up on that is not on paper, that maybe even is beyond the way that the candidate is trying to present a version of themselves that they think will be acceptable. I guess the flip side to that is that gut instinct may be based on our own biases, our unconscious biases or prejudices, and could lead us into some maybe unintended and possibly unintended bad consequences if we're not careful. So the gut instinct could cut both ways.
Yes.
I'm being a bit on the fence on this one. I'd like to think that just as sensitive human beings, especially if we're aware that as all of us do bring our own biases and our assumptions to things, that maybe just as responsible and nice people, that we can account for that as best we can and use that gut instinct for the very best of what is human.
Sure. Agreed.
There we are. Agreed. Agreement's broken out already. I'm loving it. Thank you. Here we go. Let's see what happens next. And coming up today, by and large, in the developed world, populations are pretty enthusiastic about the prospects of AI. Not universally, of course, and there's plenty of concern about issues around jobs and fairness. But overall, positive sentiments do outweigh the negative. But that's not the same in countries like Ghana, where there's suspicion and fear by and large. And that's despite Google in Ghana establishing a big presence in that country. So from translation apps to healthcare, we have a special report about the state of AI in Ghana. Meanwhile, across other topics and places, we have some of your thoughts and comments. It's all right here on the Somewhere on Earth podcast. Right, so our focus on Ghana this week comes courtesy of author and journalist Sophia Smith Galer, who's just been travelling across Ghana. She's put up an excellent documentary about her tech tour on her YouTube channel, and she's put together a mini-series of reports for us. First, efforts to make sure that Ghana's languages and culture are no more lost in translation.
Imagine if the language you spoke wasn't on Google Translate. If you're an English speaker like me, that's pretty unthinkable. In fact, it's unimaginable for any of us that speaks a language used by millions around the world. But head to a country in sub-Saharan Africa and it could be very different. In Ghana, you'll only find Twi and Ewe on Google Translate out of a smorgasbord of over 80 local languages.
This is the translation app. And the good thing about the translation app is...
This is Felix Okwere. He's part of a group called Ghana NLP, and in his spare time, he's helped build something incredible. His team are building an app that is putting African language translation first, not last.
So Ghana NLP is an open source initiative where we work with the local languages in building AI systems and machine learning platforms and systems to help with real problems that we have with our local languages. Essentially, it's about preserving our culture and our languages. That, for me, it's a driving force.
The app, called Kaya, is the first app to translate Ghanaian languages with machine learning and artificial intelligence. It's working hard to make sure it can offer speech recognition, something that Google Translate doesn't yet do for Twi and Ewe, which is where users can speak into the device and have their text transcribed and translated.
If we're able to get our languages on these platforms, we can impact the ordinary Ghanaian and the ordinary person to improve their lives in some way. So it could be online medical consultation, it could be business, it could be students learning from a teacher. So essentially, the fact that our platforms could be used to help people in that way also drives me, aside we keeping our language in a digital form. Our sources, our platform being able to help people also drives me.
As well as trying to offer a better tool for Twi and Ewe, the team behind Kaya is also working hard to platform languages that have never been translated by an app before. But getting the text together is hard. Just for Twi, for example, a huge data set was required.
So in terms of how much we need at the very least 1 terabyte data source in Twi. And if you are translating that into numbers, I would say for each person we need about 1 million sentences just to begin with.
So how do you build out enough training data for, say, Dagbani, a language spoken by over 1 million people in northern Ghana?
So where are we going now?
So we are going to the office of the Dagbani Wikimedians User Group, an affiliate of the Wikimedia Foundation and also a registered non-profit organization based in Tamale right here in Sanar Wokoko. And we will be having like a Wikipedia chit-chat with Sophia from UK, and she will be meeting a lot of Wikimedians from the northern region, like especially Dagbani contributors, Mori, Gruni, and Kusal contributors. So
Sadiq Shahadu is the executive director of the Dagbani Wikimedians User Group. Normally, his group get together to write articles in Dagbani on Wikipedia to make sure the language has a presence on the internet. So, they are used to generating a lot of text in Dagbani. They've got a passion for making sure their language is represented online. All of that is perfect for building out training data for artificial intelligence.
Even though AI is a technology platform that anybody at all can build a tool that would work well, we still need the people who understand the language, especially for natural language processing and also like automatic speech recognition. To produce the files, you need to be original. You need to be able to produce the words in their original format, not somebody with other accent or that who doesn't understand the words, their pronunciations at all. Even though machine works with all kinds of voices, you still need the community that understands the language better.
In Kumasi, where Felix lives, I watched him introduce the Kaya app to a language professor who had never heard of AI translation before. I'll leave you with her reaction.
So interesting. This is the first time I'm seeing this.
That's good morning.
I know of translation from English to French, from French to Spanish and other international languages. But this is the first time I'm seeing translation for our local languages. And I think it's very, very superb. Congratulations, you've done well.
That excited-sounding language professor ending that report from Sophia. So, lots to unpack on all that, Wairimu. And a sign, really, that these translation technologies can take automated translation beyond, I suppose, the two principal languages or the two languages most often kind of catered for by translation apps like Twi and Ewe. What did you think as you heard all that?
I'm quite excited. When I was listening to it, I'm always keen on apps that actually help to translate local African languages, because we generally in one African country there are so many languages, tens of languages, and so when I hear that, I feel like it's going to be really useful for the people, particularly in rural areas, or even if you don't live in rural areas. If you speak one of the languages, and most likely you do, because like you mentioned, those are the two most popular languages in Ghana, you are most likely to feel much more comfortable to use it. So I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I felt that as well, hearing about, as I say, going beyond tweet and ewe. And I suppose there's also a lot there about preserving culture, isn't there? Because that's the thing. You talk languages and culture, they're inextricably linked.
That struck me very much because most of the time, let me give you an example of where I come from, Kenya. When you grow up, but the fact that you go to school, you go to university, most of the time you will speak in English because, and maybe Kiswahili, which is one of the national languages. But that means that slowly by slowly, some other languages or your own maternal language, you tend not to know it as well as these other languages. So I feel like the effort that is being made to preserve culture, and of course, language has a lot to do with it, is a really good way forward.
So I mentioned that Sophia has been putting together this mini-series for us, and we're actually going to run all three of her mini-series in this edition. So Sophia's also been focusing on health in Ghana. Now, this is a country with a serious lack of radiologists, and now there are innovations in new health technology to diagnose cancer and indeed other diseases. So in this report, we hear from an inventor and a doctor.
So this is the X-ray machine.
In Raj Clinic in Ghana's Cape Coast, Stephen Awotwe has a busy job. He's a radiographer, one of only 300 in a country with more than 33 million people.
The common pathologies that we encounter here, the common ones are usually pneumonia, chest infections. Here we do scans, diagnostic procedures. So we do X-rays, CT scans, and then ultrasound scans.
Once he helps perform the medical imaging, he passes the scan or X-ray to a radiologist. The statistics here are even more dire. There are fewer than 100 radiologists in Ghana. And to put that into perspective, there are about 4,000 in the UK, a country with only double Ghana's population.
So the radiologist looks at the X-ray and then identifies the pathology. If I say pathology, that's any abnormality. And once he identifies the pathology, he makes a report. So it's based on the reports that the doctor, that's a referring doctor, the one that requested for the procedure, will based on it to do the treatment.
But over the last year, a new tool has disrupted this traditional process. This clinic is pioneering an AI tool from Mino Health, which reads all of the scans and flags any abnormalities it may spot.
It makes my work very easy.
Dr. Jima Bashiru is the radiologist who runs this clinic alongside 2 other diagnostic centres.
The AI actually screens. It does what we call screening. So the confidence level for picking up normal X-rays or normal chest X-rays is very high. So if the AI tells you this X-ray is normal, in most cases it's normal. But if the AI is able to pick up the slightest abnormality, then it comes to me to do a formal report. So the AI is not taking away my work. So I have no fear that AI is coming to take my work.
Dr. Bashiru not only helped Mino Health develop this tool, he has been keeping an eye on AI developments for a long time and is confident about the difference it can make in his country.
We are getting to the stage where AI will make the work easier, it makes the work faster, it will reduce the workload, and it actually sharpens the kind of results that we churn out. I think 4 or 5 years ago, I was involved in a huge study in Ghana where we used AI to diagnose tuberculosis in Ghana. Tuberculosis, the biggest study in Ghana, we used AI. And when we compared the results of AI and the X-rays that my colleagues and I read, the results were incredible. And that tool has been deployed the whole of Ghana. And the 7 Ghanaians, they don't even know their X-rays are read by AI. They have no idea.
Back in Ghana's capital, I was eager to meet the innovator behind the incredible tool that is already saving lives, especially as Raj clinics say 100 people so far have been screened by it.
In actuality, what we are doing is we are building the first AI digital doctor, or let's just say a digital doctor.
Darlington Akogo says AI can help save lives far more quickly than other healthcare reforms.
The natural thing might be, why don't you train more doctors? Because medical school takes forever. It's about 6 years and there's a specialization. And then we have issues even retaining the ones that we've trained. So Ghana, for example, loses a lot of medical doctors to other parts of the world. They actually go to the UK, they go to South America because they are paid there more. And so our angle is that build AI solutions that can automate some of the tasks that doctors do. And these AI solutions can empower the few existing doctors that we have so that they provide care to people. So we actually have AI solutions that already do this within Ghana. Yeah.
But it wasn't easy convincing doctors that his tool was a good idea.
So no, it was, in the beginning it was quite, a heavy pushback that we got, right? So I can vividly remember as far back as 2017 going to hospitals and then talking about, hey, we have this AI solutions that, you could use, and they found the idea outrageous that you want to give some digital tool the ability to influence something that connects to human health, right? I can vividly remember engaging some group that literally asked me, is it legal to use an AI system in healthcare? I was like, well, it's not illegal. There's no law against using AI. So, going from that to now where the reception is much more, it makes sense to everyone. To be honest, there's no one that we have to explain to why there's a need for AI in healthcare. It's more of how do we do it the right way? How does it not, eventually lead to job loss for clinicians? But yeah, we've seen the reception change quite a lot.
All right, so that report from Sophia. And let's get a few little thoughts here from you, Wairimu, because that is a big problem in any country when you have that lack of X-ray specialists and radiologists, and then a technology comes along that shows great promise in being able to go through thousands of scans very quickly and based on its training data do screening and diagnostics.
Yeah, I would just like to emphasize something she said or we heard from that report. Like 50 radiologists in the whole of Ghana. So that means one radiologist for every 600,000 people. So if you're going to reduce that number by using artificial intelligence, you're going to save a lot of lives as well. So
you sure are.
And this is a problem that is across Africa. And we are seeing in many countries, even in Kenya, the use of AI in the medical space. For example, I know that recently we have this health insurance app called MTBA, and it's using the app to make the claim process much faster. And of course, this is reducing the waiting time and so on and so forth. So I think because there's a very big problem of doctors, of infrastructure, medical-wise in Africa, of course, this is a very welcome tool.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
AI is changing the game of business. Will you be on the winning team? I'm Jordan Wilson, the host of the Everyday AI podcast and your coach to help you learn the X's and O's of AI. Artificial intelligence isn't just a new player in the game, it's a new sport altogether. So if you don't quickly put AI into play, your competitors will run up the score. I've spent my whole life building winning teams, from coaching basketball to working with big players like Nike and Jordan Brand. My next move? Helping you win with Everyday AI. Listen wherever you get your podcasts or on everydayaipodcast.com. Let's tap into AI together and put points on the board.
And I suppose it's a flip side to that worry around jobs, isn't it? People worried about these tools taking people's jobs, and that is a completely legitimate worry, by the way. But if those jobs didn't exist in the first place, it's not as if, say, 20,000 radiologists are going to go out of business in Ghana because they're not there in the first place. So this is a flip side to that worry.
Yeah, sure. And also, I think when something new comes into society and you don't understand it, I think mostly because of the fear, it makes you have all these assumptions. And it's true, maybe in some cases it will take away some jobs, but I also believe that as it takes away we come up with new job opportunities as well. So I think that, Of course, there's one thing that worries me more than the creation or the taking away of jobs, yeah? I'm wondering, still there's a problem. All these apps, all these AI tools that we're having only benefit you if you have access to them. And still we have a very big problem with infrastructure, particularly in the rural areas in Africa. So some of these things still cannot function without a proper infrastructure system that the company that is coming up with these solutions perhaps cannot do by themselves. Or they can't. We can just assume that or think that. And so there are many players that have to come in place for such tools to be as effective as they were intended to be.
All right. Okay, so let's go for the third and final of Sophia's report, because Google now has a big presence in Ghana, and Sophia's interested in how that's affecting the tech scene in the country and maybe people's attitudes to technology and AI specifically. First, though, we go back to Sophia's original reason to visit Ghana.
Will AI mostly help or mostly harm us in the next 20 years? That's a question that the Lloyd's Register Foundation's World Risk Poll in 2021 asked around the world, and the findings were fascinating. If you live in Europe or Eastern Asia, you're likely to think that AI will help, but go to where populations are classed as low or lower middle income and the picture dramatically changes. In Central and Western Africa, Northern Africa, Eastern Africa and Southern Asia, there are the highest levels of worry about harm from AI. Curious to understand why this was, I applied for a grant to investigate what was going on in a country I was surprised to see so pessimistic about AI, Ghana. Why? Because I know that's where there is such a vibrant tech scene, one so vibrant it attracted Google to set up their first AI research centre in Africa in Accra, the Ghanaian capital. My first step was to ask locals about what they thought about AI.
In every situation there's positive and negative.
I'm not a fan of AI, especially when I got to know that you can use someone's voice on a different song, and it is not something that should be encouraged.
It's going to be faster, but it's going to cause unemployment too.
As a student, it makes my life easier because I take a long time to go through books before getting to know certain things. But also, it makes me a little lazy.
Well, I think AI is great. I'm one person who admires innovation. I believe that the world is supposed to go forward and we are not supposed to go backwards. It means I have to upgrade myself to learn how to use it. Because while that is taking job away from someone else is getting a job. So I need to be that person getting a new job.
It's quite scary.
I thought some of their answers were fascinating. Not a single person mentioned the Google Research Centre, nor did they mention any local AI innovation that I had been hearing about. I took these responses to Darlington Akogo, an Accra-based AI innovator and pioneer.
I would say yes, let's acknowledge the fears that people have about AI. Some of it might be just the mere fact that they don't understand it. So let's do a better job of explaining it, what AI means, and letting them know the realistic dangers and the dangers that are not realistic. As of 2023, you're not going to have like Terminator walking down the street attacking you. It's not realistic, but you can have AI bias, you can have all of those things. And then let them understand what is being done and what could be done to curb those dangers. But yes, we need to have honest conversations about it.
While I was in Accra, I got to attend a media day at Google where they were showcasing a few of the artificial intelligence projects they have been working on. Alongside interventions to better predict weather and flash flooding, one of the projects is open buildings. This is Abigail Anka, research software engineer.
This project is called the Open Buildings Dataset. It is focused on mapping built-up environment in the developing world, and we using satellite imagery, and we have managed to successfully train an AI model that is able to predict the presence or absence of building from satellite imagery and transform the data we obtained into a maps data and shared with the external community through the website you would see on the screen.
The UN has already been using this data for survey sampling, and the International Energy Agency has been using it to estimate energy needs. But what was clear from my time in Ghana and the interviews that you're about to hear is that most people have no idea these interventions are taking place. Could it be that one of the reasons people think AI will mostly cause harm over the next 20 years rather than good is because we aren't talking enough about the good that it can do?
Well, thank you very much to Sophia Smith Galer for those 3 reports. Final few words from you then, Wairimu, about what you've just heard. And that starting point, I suppose, in that across Africa, the continent of Africa, that the worries around AI tend to outweigh the optimism around it, which is a contrast to research in maybe the places like the Europe and the United States, where people overall are kind of enthusiastic, despite, of course, a few worries. Is that a picture that you recognise?
What I recognise is that I've realised that many people haven't tried any AI tool. They will have all these assumptions about what it can do and what it will take away, and all these other issues about privacy, which are quite, are reasonable. But my thinking is that when I ask people, which tool have you used? Have you used ChatGPT? Have you used Claude AI? Have you, most of my answer is that the people haven't used them enough, or haven't even learned how to use them, because they're not supposed to take away your ideas. It's supposed to create a sort of support. If you're a writer, you're imagining the AI tool is one more person in your editorial team. So that's my big problem, that we discuss AI, but we haven't really used it. So we just have fears about it. So I guess that's why someone like Sophia got this feedback as she walked around the streets of Ghana to get people's feedback.
So the fear of the unfamiliar partly, but also some very well-founded fears on some of the issues, and very serious issues, that AI raises. Good. Thank you very much indeed for that. Now, just before we leave it for this edition, might we do a little bit of our fun soap suds and award some subscriber numbers? I think could be rather good fun if we just got a moment to do one or two, because we're going to come back to you, first of all, Wairimu, because you requested number 21, which we have granted, but we didn't really go into so much detail about why you want that number. So why does 21 matter to you?
Oh, okay, yeah. Good question, Gareth.
Put you on the spot there.
I think 21 matters to me because I think that's when I started seriously doing stories and decided that my career in communications, in journalism, was going to be about social impact. And that's what excites me about being... you'll notice that most of the time when I comment about, let's say, technology, it's always technology for good. Because I believe that many of these things will transform, particularly Africa. And so I think that's the time when I became more conscious that I have this I could call it a calling, to do this kind of stories that will transform the African continent, or make people aware of how much talent and good there is in the continent. All
right. That's good. Well, definitely, I'm very, very happy that we granted you 21 in that case. A few quick ones here then. Barbara asks, well, she begins with a question: should leading zeros and vulgar fractions be acceptable? And she's kind of asking if that's okay. I'm going to say yes, it is. Then Barbara said, if that is the case, I would like to claim 006 and 7/8 in honour of my friend David Bond, who signed himself thus. 006, definitely not just 6 and 7/8. I see why David Bond would want to be just the 006 ahead of 007. But 006 and 7/8, that's very specific. Yeah. I love that. Do you approve, Wairimu?
Totally.
Yeah, what about you, editor and producer Anya? So that one will go through. We're going to grant that, Barbara. Congratulations. Oh, Chris Purdy, I feel so guilty every time I read this. Chris says, every episode I'm on tenterhooks to see if my chosen subscriber number has been used. But after I finish listening, I forget to ask for the number. If it hasn't already been bagged, can I ask for listener number or subscriber number 10, please? Because as they say, there are 10 types of people in the world: those who understand binary and those who don't. So actually, Chris doesn't want the number 10. He's actually asking for 10 as expressed in binary. And I'm just looking through the subscriber database here. That one hasn't gone. So I'm going to have to put it down as binary 10. What do we reckon? Anya first. Thumbs up from Anya, and you, Wairimu?
Yeah, I'll go with Anya. Anya is always right.
Good. So we've got 1 approvals there. That's binary for 3 approvals. So because I'm one of them. And finally, Clive Potter wants to claim 6210. Clive said it's the model of my favourite and longest lasting smartphone. Sadly, the ribbon cable between the 2 sliding halves broke and I couldn't get a replacement. So in memory of Clive's 6210 phone, can we grant that then? Wairimu?
Yeah, I mean, he's connected it to tech, so we have no choice. That's what we do best.
It's a little bit of a personal story there as well. It's a bit of retro nostalgia. So there's quite a lot going for that request. What about you, Anya? And Anya agrees as well. There you go. We're out of here. Thank you very much, Wairimu. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. Thank you so much, Gareth. Speak soon.
Thoroughly enjoyed it. Thanks to Dylan. He's doing the sound levels for us today as our sound engineer. The producer editor is Anya. Production manager is Liz Toohey. And I'm Gareth, and we're all here at Lanson's Team Farner bidding you a very fond farewell. Bye-bye.